Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale with Hot Buys, your choice of colors starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $250. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beauty Rest Black with special financing options for every budget. Only at Ashley in North Charleston and Mount Pleasant. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.
Hi, it's Gabby Reese, and this podcast is powered by Laird Superfood. It was created in our kitchen by my husband, big wave surfer Laird Hamilton, and it all started with a simple idea. What began as Laird's secret for long-lasting energy on the waves is now Laird Superfood, offering a full range of delicious plant-based creamers, coffee, greens, and more. Visit lairdsuperfood.com and use the code GABBY2024 and save 20% on your first order.
This episode is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. At Navy Federal, it's been the mission to help the military community for over 90 years. And not just help them, but do everything to make sure they not only grow, but flourish. That's why Navy Federal Credit Union has all kinds of great savings and investment options like share certificates with sky-high rates. So don't hesitate. Start growing your finances today with a variety of savings and investment options. Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission. Savings products insured by NCUA. Investment products are not insured, not obligations of Navy Federal and may lose value.
Episode 393, How Much to Have Saved for Retirement at 30, 40, and 50.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are talking about how much you should theoretically have saved at retirement, for retirement at certain ages. We are not going to throw random numbers like you should have 2x your salary, 3x your salary. I don't care what your salary is. I care what you care about and what you want to do with your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Coming out the gate hot.
You got to. You got to make them understand. It's not an arbitrary number. It's not an arbitrary calculation. Like, there are things that you can think about. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do in retirement.
Yeah.
But if you start thinking about who you are now and start thinking about what those things cost to be who you are,
Mm-hmm.
you can start to think about it.
I still like to have a bit of a metric to kind of know, because this is something people don't totally talk about because it is a little fluid, but still getting some version of a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that we will help you to define what that is in this episode. I'm super excited about it. I'm excited about these articles. And we also polled you all in the friend letter before we get into those articles. So for those of you getting the friend letter, you know at the bottom of it, we always are asking some version of a lightning round question that you can answer and even respond to us, give us more information. It's a really fun way of engaging. Now we're incorporating it into our episodes. So we asked you all, how much do you have saved for retirement? And the majority of you are right in this middle portion of the answers, somewhere between 11,000 to 250,000 is where the majority of you fall. That's a big span.
Yeah,
of
most
money and numbers.
Most people are in the 11,000 to 50,000 because if you're single, that's going to make more sense. If you're dual income, our second highest answer was 101 to 250,000. So that makes more sense if you're a dual income household. So that it does make a lot of sense. But we just want to normalize also whatever you have saved is good. And the only bad thing is if you want to have a Rolls Royce in retirement and maybe you only have 10,000 saved at 40, that might be bad. But the only bad thing about it is that you may want to shift away from a Rolls Royce and start enjoying Toyotas. That's the thing. Whatever you have saved is good. Like, we got some responses feeling like I feel like I'm so far behind. I'm getting closer to pay off my debt. And maybe investing is not number one on your list right now. That's okay. As long as you're doing something to improve your finances, don't feel like you're behind. Don't feel like you don't know enough to catch up or to be where you want to be. All this we want to normalize and encourage you to do what you can with what you have.
Yeah, this episode is for you. If you're finding yourself feeling as though, I don't know, am I behind? But based on what? So let's define it for our different life stages.
But first, if you need more of this outside of the Frugal Friends podcast, get the Friendletter, frugalfriendspodcast.com. We are talking about investing stuff. We mostly talk about freebies, savings tips, smart buying practices. So like not deals, but how you can get really good quality stuff without paying the overage of, hypey brands and social media viral nonsense. So,
which those things are going to help you save both now and in the future. And those are practices and habit formation that will carry with you into retirement.
Yes.
So there's benefit across the board in the Friendletter.
Absolutely. frugalfriendspodcast.com. And if you are looking for more information about saving for retirement, we just did a couple really good episodes about your Roth IRA. We're doing this Roth IRA challenge. And this is kind of the wrap up of that Roth IRA challenge. We want you to feel confident in saving so that you can take advantage of this relatively low, like maximum threshold investment, like tax advantage opportunity. So you do not get 2023 back. So few things in life have a grace period. Your IRA is one of them. And so we want you to take advantage of it in the capacity that you have. So we have those. And then we also have episodes like 291, What to Do If You Have Nothing Saved for Retirement, and episode 275, Understanding Your Workplace Retirement Accounts with Delianne Barros.
So this first article, I'm so stoked on it. I found it fascinating. It's from Retire Guide, and it's called Average Retirement Spending in 2023, Typical Expenses and Budgeting Tips. The whole point with this article was to help us understand average spending habits of current retirees so that we can inform our own retirement savings plan, avoid accumulating debt. I think for many of us, retirement can feel so far off. We don't really know who we're going to be, what we're going to need, what the economy is going to look like. And so that can be hard to make a plan to save because what will I even need? What will inflation look like by then? How much money is going to be a worthwhile amount? And while a lot of that is still shielded from our understanding, it is helpful to learn from those who have gone before us, those who are there right now. And it may not be an exact description of what it's going to look like for us, but it is, again, one of those launching points of, well, what are they doing? It's probably not going to look too much different for me, and or I can make my own decisions to make it look a little bit different for me. But not that the exact amounts of money are going to work for us, but to be able to talk in some of these percentages and where is the majority of money going, how is time being spent, is really helpful. So they gave this first little statistic that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, on average, people ages 65 and older spent about $52,000 in 2021, which is a $14,000 less than the average spending of the general population. So about $67,000 is what the average population spent. I found that so interesting that in retirement, people are spending a little bit less than kind of what the general population is doing, which I think we often assume like, oh yeah, well, I won't need as much, but I always get nervous about that. Like, you might need more though than what you needed throughout the majority of your life. But it does look like even the spending kind of slows down, takes a slower pace.
Well, I mean, at this point, all of your kids are out of the house and out of college. So they should be financially stable and on their own. You're not going as many places, like you're not taking as many family vacations. And when you do take vacations, they are a fraction of the price because you're usually not bringing everyone every single time. So yeah, like I can really see so obviously it's, 2021 spending is very different from 2024, but the article suggests that your spending in retirement will be about 80% of your annual pre-retirement. It says income, but I would say what is 80% of your pre-retirement spending, probably. So you can take, if you're looking at your budget, looking at your 90-day transaction inventory, a very good baseline is to average out your monthly spending and then go 80% of that. So that's going to be like a really, that's going to be a bare minimum for you to start with.
But then they give this infographic of the typical spending in retirement. And at that kind of $55,000 mark was the average retirement income, and average retirement expenses was $52,000. So this is really painting a paycheck to paycheck kind of picture that only leaves $3,000 annually left over on average. That's not a lot of cushion month to month with this. So what's coming in is kind of going out. And then they break it down into, well, where is the money going? And this was most intriguing to me, that even in retirement, for on average, these retirees, 30% of their retirement expenses was housing costs. And my immediate thought was, I thought in retirement, you'd have your house paid off. And they said that. Yeah, right. Sometimes they don't. But they were like, even with those people who had their houses paid off, they still broke it down into all the different types of expenses. So from housing supplies, household operations, it did seem like they added in other types of lodging. So I don't know if that means they're adding in like lodging on vacation or different types of things.
Yeah, I'm not 100%.
But your taxes are increasing. You're still paying all of your utilities on your housing. So it still represented 30% of their income.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know if I agree 100% with all of the things they included in quote unquote housing costs, but for a lot of people, the house that you buy is not the house you stay in for 30 years. So a lot of people will buy 2 to 3 houses in their lifetime, and you live in each one for, 5 years. So it's very likely that when you're 65, you're still going to have a house payment if you bought one when you were, 40 or 45. Hopefully not too long into retirement. And then, yeah, you definitely have your taxes, your insurance, all of that stuff. So you're still going to have home expenses, but they tend to drop off. And yeah, whether they're 30% or not, again, 80% of your current spending is just a bare minimum. And if you want to shoot for 100% equivalent, if you're in your 30s, I know we just got, I don't remember if it was an email or what, from somebody who said, I'm 35 and I feel like I'm so far behind. And I was like, girl, you are a year older than me. Like, it's not, yeah, I guess we've been doing this stuff for a while, but you're in your 30s, you are not far behind. You are at a good place to start, right? The people in their 40s and 50s are hearing that right now and be like, no, girl, you start now. You are in the perfect place. So, yeah.
If you're in your 60s and you want to retire in the next few years, it is pedal to the metal time. But I found this interesting, something to keep an eye on. I think we can assume once I own my home, that's the reason for home ownership, so that I can rest easy in retirement. And retirees are currently telling us housing is still a major expense for us. So factor that in. Yeah, we can be bummed about it, cry about it in the corner for a second, but then also realign your expectations that housing will still cost you money
and
for the rest of your life.
And if you have a mortgage in retirement, I don't think that's a bad thing. If you spent your working years prioritizing investing that has a higher rate of return typically than what your mortgage is costing you, you still made a good financial decision. You're still going to come out on top if you were investing instead of prioritizing your mortgage payoff. So the next couple are healthcare. And this is one that I honestly think there should be a little bit more. So they say it's about 8% of retirement expenses. And I don't know at what part of retirement, but they said overall, or on average, retirees reported that 5% of their monthly spending went toward out-of-pocket medical costs and 8% went toward medical and health insurance. So I guess it is more than 8. It's, 8 plus 5. So 20% of adults 65 and older reported out-of-pocket medical expenses of more than $2,000 in 2021, which I think is super conservative. We have heard from people like financial advisors that say that the medical costs are the main expense in retirement. And so that's, I think, one of the reasons to, if you can shoot for 100% of your spending, and that's why we prioritize making sure our spending is in control and we're only spending on the things that we love and not mindlessly consuming into impulse spending. Because once you know that you're spending, you feel good about your spending, that, the 100% of that is far less than 100% of spending on like all kinds of impulse things, right? Yeah. So that's why we say get control of it now so that you feel better overall about saving for retirement.
Yeah. The next one on here is transportation expenses being about 12%, which that's a little shocking to me too, that it would be more than what you'd spend on medical. But they did give this stat. In 2020, there were about 31 million licensed drivers ages 70 and older. So people are still driving in retirement. So
we know this in Florida.
Have the costs of car ownership, or if you've got a car payment and maintenance and all of these things. And then especially if you don't have your license anymore, you maybe don't have a vehicle, you might need to then be paying people to take you places if public transportation is not an option. So still need to be factoring in, how are we getting around?
Yes. And my favorite, cost of food, 25%. So the thing that changes really between your working years and your retirement is that slightly less on transportation, and we bump food up to number 2. Now, if food is already your number 2, like you're already living the dream. You are retired. Congratulations. You have achieved. But for most people with a car payment who are, transporting kids, have a commute, stuff like that, transportation is usually number 2, and food will go to up to 25% of your spending in retirement. They said food was the most common, fastest growing expense reported by seniors in 2021. Sorry to seniors in 2024. Nobody could anticipate. Everybody could anticipate, but nobody could. 73% of the average food budget for people 65 and older was spent on food at home, whereas about 30% was spent on eating out. So that's 103% of your eating budget.
Yeah. So food and housing is always going to cost you.
Math.
Always and forever. What? The big 3 that we always talk about, they're not going away.
They are always going to be there.
The last thing I want to mention about this article is they talk about just debt, the crushing debt that retirees were reporting. So 96% of retirees reported having debt in 2022. 96%. That's nearly all of them.
Pretty much all.
43% of those 96 described the debt as easily manageable, whereas 11% reported it as crushing, unmanageable. But this was a huge takeaway for me as far as where we have choice and agency in what retirement looks like, that we can, again, learn from those who have gone before. And if this is something we don't want to see in retirement, then we practice that now. Not having debt, getting rid of debt now will only benefit us when we head into retirement. We don't have to be a generation that has 96% of us are in debt in our later years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if we are, there's nothing like to be ashamed about in that, but we want to do what we can to lighten that load on ourselves. We want to be able to enjoy those years. And we don't want to leave our loved ones with debts that don't go away when we die too. So there's a lot of things to think about. And if your plan at the end of your life is to just rack up a crap ton of credit card debt, like leave it for the last year of your life, okay? Let's make sure we're prepared for all the times up to there.
Yeah, you don't know exactly how long you'll live.
Right. So like leave that as your last resort and let's just try to plan as well as we can. When it comes to financial advice, you got to trust the source. It's why you listen to this podcast. If you're looking to upgrade your wallet, you need to turn to NerdWallet.
Their expert team of nerds dives into the details to help you find smarter financial products. If you're paying for vacations with whatever card is in your wallet, you could be missing out on miles you didn't even know you were leaving on the table.
You can get a new card with more miles and more upgrades. What could future you do with more travel rewards? A hotel upgrade, lounge access? Wherever you go next, make it happen with a smarter travel credit card. Don't wait to make smart financial decisions.
Compare and find smarter credit cards, savings accounts, and more today at nerdwallet.com. As with all cards, credit is subject to lender approval and terms apply. NerdWallet. Finance smarter.
You might remember from our budget apps episode, we mentioned Monarch Money as being one of the best apps for people switching from Mint.
Monarch is the top-rated all-in-one personal finance app. It gives you a comprehensive view of all your accounts, investments, transactions, cash flow, net worth, and more. Listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/frugal.
If you previously used Mint and are worried about transferring your data, Monarch has a tool that allows you to easily import your data from Mint, keeping all your tags and categories intact. It's also super customizable. After trying out Monarch for myself, I understand why it's the top-rated personal finance app.
And right now, listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/frugal. That's monarchmoney.com/frugal for your extended 30-day free trial.
We've been there, done that with overpriced wireless providers and their fine print contracts. But with Mint Mobile, their wireless plans are just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's it, no catch.
Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they sell wireless service online. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet, sweet savings directly to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
So you can say bye-bye to that overpriced phone plan you've been using and bring your own phone, your same number, and all your contacts with you right on over to any Mint Mobile plan.
To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/frugal. That's mintmobile.com/frugal. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/frugal. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. This next article comes from Trust and Will. So it's describing a guide to retirement savings by age, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So like Jen said, we're not going to apparently tell you.
We will say the numbers. I will admit that they are helpful. They are not helpful when people are, shoving it down your throat, being like, if you don't have 2 times your salary saved, you better get on it. Do something different with your life. It's a mindset problem. I don't like that. but I've just been here for too long.
Yeah. So they start off by talking about the rule of 25. So this isn't necessarily something that we think you have to take on as this is the exact prescription for what I need to do.
But I do like this better than the 2 extra salary, 3 extra salary thing. I say go with the rule of 25 before you go with any other number.
And I think it's a helpful, again, just baseline. What should I even be aiming for? What do I even need to be trying to do here? So they're describing that to calculate your retirement savings target, first you need to create an estimate of your monthly expenses. So let's say they give these numbers. Let's say you can comfortably live off of $3,000 a month, multiply that by 12 to get your annual withdrawal amount. This would be, what do you think you can live off of per year? In this case, it would be $36,000. I don't think these numbers are anywhere close to what we need to be considering. But for the sake of giving an example, let's say it's $36,000 a year that you want to be pulling out annually in retirement. Then you want to take your withdrawal amount and multiply it by 25. I assume that you're thinking you're going to be in retirement for 25 years.
No. I mean, so this will just make sure that you are, if you withdraw at 4%, then you're never touching the nest egg. You're only ever withdrawing the growth. It ensures that there's at least at about a 7 to 10% growth rate that all $36,000 every year that you withdraw is always going to be annual growth. It's never going to be
getting that nest egg.
Right.
Okay. So that would be a savings target of $900,000 with this example. And I think that they did this example because they wanted to highlight that not everybody needs to save $1 million. That has been kind of this target, especially within the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. It's always been save $100 million. So then you can withdraw that
$100 million.
Sorry, wow, $1 million. So then you can withdraw that 4%. And really, this is not a realistic number. It's not $36,000 a year is not a realistic number now. I can't imagine it's going to be a realistic number if you are planning to retire in a few decades from now. It's going to need to be more. I do think we need to adjust for inflation.
Yeah, so some of this takes, the 7% growth rate does take into account inflation because the stock market has in the past traditionally grown 10% like over its entirety, but we use a 7% calculation to account for a 3% inflation. But I mean, if you've been alive for the past couple years, you know inflation's been far faster than that. But we had a really good decade where it was very slow, like light inflation. So
you're saying there could be some years where you take more than 4% and you'd still not be touching the nest egg.
Correct. Right. But you always have, those bear markets. You will have a bear market at some time or a correction at some time in your retirement. And you want to be able to have enough to still take out the $36,000 without touching the nest egg. And that's why on those good years, you don't take out more so that it compensates for the slower years.
Yeah. And I do want to say, just vernacular, we are using the word savings and investing kind of interchangeably, which is unfortunate. We're not just talking put $900,000 under your mattress. We're talking invest for retirement and have this amount in your investment accounts by the time you reach retirement.
Yeah. So another calculation with the rule of 25 would be, say, maybe $5,000 per month is what you spend. And you want to start with that conservative, like I'm going to spend 80% of that in retirement. So 80% of 5,000 is 4,000. We multiply that by 12 and we're getting 48,000 in a year. I think that's far better to think. So, and then you multiply that by 25 and you get 1.2 million. So I think that's a far better goal. I think 1.2 million is a reasonable goal. May not sound reasonable to you right now, but we'll talk a little bit about how to get to that goal.
Well, and this is probably talking per person though, too. So if you are, if you're married and you've got annual household income that's higher than that, then yes, take that into consideration. So let's get into ages.
Yes. So let's start with 20s. We don't have a ton of people in their 20s who listen to the show, but shout out to you if you're starting young and you can still relate to us because we're cool. So on average, Americans in their 20s have saved around $10,500 toward retirement.
I was shocked at that. I did not think that'd be the case. I think we have 401ks to thank for that number.
Yes, absolutely. The mandatory 401k or the opt-out 401k, not mandatory, but it automatically enrolls you and you have to opt out, is fantastic. If you are someone who that happened to and maybe you left that job, highly require you to roll over your old 401k into an IRA that you control. And you can actually use Capitalize to do that for free. frugalfriendspodcast.com/capitalize if you can type all of that in. But so yeah, in your 20s is just getting over the barrier to start saving. Anything that you can save in your 20s will grow. You have like over 4 decades to grow stuff. So, but first you want to shore up your emergency fund. You want to get over that barrier to entry. So start in your company's 401k plan, open a Roth IRA. These are going to be like your to-do list. And Fidelity recommends contributing about 15% of your pre-tax income into retirement accounts.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, when you're in your 20s, Okay, I'm going to move into the 30s at this point. Okay.
Let's talk about like how much you would need to contribute.
Okay.
Yeah. To do that.
Because this is what can frustrate me about these types of articles is they can give this sense as if money is ever flowing. Like, well, just max out your Roth IRA and just take this percentage of your pre-tax income. Well, we don't get to take home pre-tax income. So that's like more than 15% of our actual income because of what we actually get to take home. And for many of us, it's not reasonable. Many of us do not have 15 to 30% additional beyond our expenses to just like throw at this thing. So I just want to, I get that all these numbers are on paper and telling us the right thing to do, but please know you're not alone if you're like, this just isn't possible for me. So here's a baseline, something that you could be considering, but also know something is better than nothing.
Yeah. So if you want to get to that 1.2 million, then, and you have a 40-year time horizon. So this would essentially be starting at 25 years old and investing monthly. Again, we're using a 7% return rate. We're compounding quarterly. That's going to be about $462 a month. Your total contributions over 40 years will be just over 220. So like $222,000 around there. And the total interest that you will have, but you didn't put in, is over $978,000.
Yeah.
So
I did not have that money in my 20s. 100% did not. That's a relatively expensive car payment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely. So if we wanted to move that number to just $1 million, then that takes us down to saving $385 a month. Again, pretty steep, especially if you have student loans. Yeah. So not everyone's going to be able to start this in their 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but start though. Like, I think that's the piece that kind of kept me in some ways from it. Although there were months where I didn't even have $20 to throw at it. But if you're doing better than I did in my 20s and you've got $20, then another month you got 100, another month you got 200. Oh, we're back down to 30. Like, just put it in.
Yeah.
Let it start growing. Don't let this kind of hack you out at the legs to begin with, because you still will be better off beginning in your 20s with whatever you got to give.
Yeah, I think 200 is a really good number if you can swing it in your 20s, because that money will just like compound and compound and compound. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be friction. You're going to have to be very intentional. But $200 per month, it's a doable number.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on into your 30s, I felt this one in a real way. We're in our 30s, and actually looping back to the person who emailed us, like, I'm 35 and I feel like I'm so far behind. I get that. I feel that way too. And I do appreciate that this article calls it out, because your 30s are a time of, they're calling it immense growth. You might have found some career stability, maybe some raises and role changes at work, but this is the time when you are entering into romantic partnerships, getting married, having kids, buying a home, still likely paying off student loan debt, maybe starting to care for parents even at this age. You might be beginning caregiver types of roles. There are so many demands on our money at every stage of life, but particularly here when we're still just kind of getting our footing. And so I think this is one of the reasons that it can feel like I'm so far behind, because I don't have endless money to hemorrhage towards all of the goals. Like, buying a home is a very valuable goal. Also, you can rent. That is fine too, because as we saw, when you're retired and you own a home, you're still spending a ton of money on housing. But if this is something that you do want to be putting a bigger emphasis on, this is a very good time to do it. On average, Americans in their 30s have saved about $38,000 towards retirement. That number is a little bit lower than what we would want to see by the time we enter into our 40s. So they're recommending, one of their baseline recommendations is that you've saved the equivalent of your annual salary by your 30s. So I would say annual household income, not just your salary, but if you're planning on retiring with the person you're currently living with. Now, if you're just starting in your 30s, then the percentage of our pre-tax income that we want to be putting into our retirement investment accounts does ramp up. So in our 20s, it was 15%. Now in our 30s, if we're just starting, we want to increase that to somewhere between 18 to 23% of our pre-tax income. So quite a spike, but not nearly as much of a spike in percentage as it would be if we were just starting in our 40s. And of course, if we're just starting in our 50s. So it still does behoove us. Get started.
Yeah. So if we're looking at, like, if you did the most in your 25s, and I'm honestly going to start these decades in the middle.
I like that.
25 to 35, 35 to 45. It just makes it easier. So if you did the most, so you did your $463 a month in your 20s, then starting at 25, by 35, you'd have $80,000. And you only put in just over 55,000 of it.
Okay.
So that's doing the most though. If you just did 200, then you would have about 35,000 saved.
Okay.
And so, and you would have put in about 24,000 of that. So if we look at that, let's say you started, with the $200 a month, you've got $35,000 saved. And we're going to put this into our calculator. We're still going to use this first calculation to do the 1.2 million. So if you're starting 35 with $35,000 saved, and you want to get to 1.2 million, it would jump super up to, you then need to save $759 a month to get to that 1.2 million. Which, if you're a dual income household, starting at 35, it's not impossible.
Yeah. I mean, that's less than a dual income maxing out both of your 401ks. I'm sorry, Roth IRAs. Sorry to confuse you.
Yeah. So it is a lot higher though, which is why starting in your 20s is so great. And if you're not in your 20s, you should encourage people in their 20s to start investing. That goes down. If you want to just do 1 million, then that's just under $600 a month. So it's very feasible. If maybe you just have 35,000 saved, and this is the 30-year time horizon, shortening it to 30 years. If you have about $35,000 saved and you want to get to $1 million, still really doable. Still, that's $300 from each of you, and it is a friction, but doable, not impossible. When we get to these later, when we have fewer years to compound, fewer decades to compound, like 20 and 10, is when it starts to become harder.
Yeah. So what happens in the 40s, Jen?
So in your 40s, you should, and I'll just touch on the 1x your salary. I would say by the end of the decade. I think that makes sense.
That.
Yeah. You don't have to have it by the time you turn 30, but before you turn 40. So in your 40s, a person often gets to begin experience the rewards of their hard work and diligence when they reach their 40s.
I sure hope so.
And this would be, I would say 45, not at 40. The 40s decade for our episode is starting at 45. But they say on average, Americans in their 40s have about $93,400 saved toward retirement. And so they say at age 40, you should have 3 times your annual salary already saved. And that sounds difficult, especially if you're starting in your 30s. But your money at compound interest, pretty much it's like a rule of thumb. Compound interest will double your money every 10 years. So if you put $10,000 in the stock market, in a total stock market, ETF or index fund, in 10 years, that money, if you don't touch it, will probably look like $20,000. And in 10 more years, that $20,000 will look like $40,000. And so that's why this article is assuming you start in your 20s, and then by your 40s, yes, of course, your money has tripled. So it's, it makes sense, but it's harder the later you start.
Okay, so we're getting into our 50s. And this is where the article says it's time to put your retirement preparation on full steam ahead. Most Americans are far behind in meeting their savings targets. It is understandable. Cost of living, still supporting children through college, usually in your 50s, paying for home repairs, increased medical costs, definitely in caregiver roles in your 50s, that kind of sandwich generation of you're still kind of there for your kids as well as your parents. So there are a lot of pressures happening here. But if you do plan to retire, when we talk about prioritization, this should be at the top of the list. On average, Americans in their 50s have saved about $160,000 toward retirement. Again, we would want to see that number be a little bit higher when you're just less than 10 years away from retirement age. So this is where an aim can be having 6 times your annual salary saved. And this is where we can really be maxing out catch-up contributions whenever possible, putting any additional money that you might have lying around.
At 55, I can't remember if it's 55 and a half or I'm sorry, consult your investing experts. But you do get an extra $1,000 in your IRA, a certain number in your 401k. And you can, at 55, contribute more to these tax advantaged accounts than somebody who's 54 or younger. And you should take advantage of that if you have obviously especially less than 3 times your income. It becomes almost impossible to reach $1 million if you only have $160,000 saved at 55. But I mean, if you want to have, if you have $160,000 saved and your target's maybe $600,000 over 10 years, if you are investing $1,600 a month, which with kids out of the house, a lot more disposable income, you're still working, that becomes, again, difficult, friction, but not impossible in those years. You can still get to $600,000. So that's, $194,000 you're putting in, but $245,000 of interest that you did not put in. So again, $1,600 is no joke, but there are still ways to make that last 10 years really work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about our friends in their 60s? We got some friends in their 60s listening to us.
Yeah. My mom's in her 60s. She's very excited to get to the point where she can get, between working and getting Social Security for her and my dad, she's actually going to be getting a raise.
Whoa.
So I said and this is in like 3 months, she does this. So she's going to take us out to dinner with her new raise.
Out to Carrabba's.
Out to Carrabba's. Yeah. I mean, we do have some people in their 60s listening to this. So the article says, it's no longer appropriate to sugarcoat things. This should be a time in your life where you can sit back and relax. Unfortunately, most Americans are nowhere near the recommended savings target. I think a lot of our listeners are outside of that majority. But Americans in their 60s typically have $182,000 saved towards retirement. And that's nothing to laugh. I mean, there's nothing to turn your nose up at. Like 182, that can get you a long way if you're also coupling that with part-time income and your Medicaid, all that stuff.
Yeah, supplementing your medical expenses. Absolutely.
Yeah. So definitely what you have is what you have. And so at that point, you need to evaluate your non-retirement assets, see what you can monetize, see what you can sell. Don't forget to take advantage of those Social Security benefits when you turn 62. If you still love your job or enjoy what you're doing, you can delay those benefits, and then that will get you more money later on. Like my mom has delayed her benefits as long as, possible. So you can also consider investing your Social Security money in non-retirement accounts if you feel comfortable doing so. This is the time, though, where we get really conservative with our bond funds. So I don't know, that would be something to talk to your financial advisor about. This would be the time to get a financial advisor. I think the 5 years before you retire is a good time to be working with someone. And then be sure to factor in the cost of medical care. Again, just like fine-tuning your retirement income to make sure that you can be as little of a burden to the people you love as possible.
Start now. We recognize there's not any one singular goal for our money. There's so many different things that we can be putting it towards. And the closer and closer we get to retirement, the more and more this needs to be prioritized. But definitely recognize if you're in your 20s and 30s, you have to take all these other things into consideration. Definitely do something, but know that if you can't do all of the things, it's okay. You will be okay.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, general recommendations for your 30s is 1x your salary. But by the time you turn 50, it's 3x your salary. And then by the time you turn 60, it's 6x. And if you're not there, don't be discouraged, because you could earn more than what you'll spend in retirement. And that's hopefully what we're helping you do here. But again, just starting with that $200 a month. I think just starting with something and then reevaluating and always be upping it.
And if you're really pinched and you can't meet any of these goals, then reevaluating the jobs that we're in and our income streams and our skill sets. So finding these different inroads, but start somewhere. But you know what also is encouraging, and I don't want to delay?
Yeah, I want it 100x.
By the time we turn 35.
By the time I turn 35.
The bill of the week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Hi, Frugal friends. This is a habit my husband and I have implemented that have helped us save on multiple bills, multiple expenses, things like that. So what we do is every week, typically on Saturday mornings, we'll make mimosas and we'll spend like 15 to 30 minutes talking about past expenses of that previous week. So for example, we'll go through what we spent on groceries, how much we have left in the grocery budget. We'll go to the next category. Oh, this is our miscellaneous shopping budget. This is what we spent. This is how much we have left for this budget. Utilities, things like that. And then it kind of gives us like a good bird's eye view of that past week and a good bird's eye view of what we have left for the month. We also talk about like maybe unexpected expenses, things coming up that we were like invited to and we have to like bring a dish for. So that might be more towards the grocery category, things like that, for example. It's really fun, and just having that little pocket of time to be transparent about budget, finances, spending habits each week has really helped us long term because we have that built in time to talk about it. Instead of like, I don't know, just like a random Tuesday when we're kind of like unprepared, we have that time to really connect and remember our goals. And it helps having that weekly reminder. So it's always fresh in our brains. And who doesn't love a mimosa? So you can even do this at night after kids go to bed, get like margs or a glass of wine, things like that. But just having that habit of it being a weekly 15 to 30 minute pocket of time has helped tremendously. So just wanted to share if you wanted to try it.
You know what, Jill? I might budget more if Travis would drink mimosa with me. Maybe that's why I don't like it. Because I mean, I've never tried drinking and budgeting.
He would drink the orange juice.
He absolutely would. And I can get
juice.
tiny champagnes for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're inspiring us. A weekly meeting over mimosas about money. It's alliteration. And it's beautiful.
I just wish we had time on Monday so it could be a Monday morning mimosa meeting. Actually, we should probably just implement those for us.
The Frugal Friends Monday mimosa meeting.
This is not the direction you thought this bill was going, and it's here.
What a good tip, because you are implementing a routine and a habit that can potentially follow you throughout life, but it's not a huge time commitment, and you've made it fun. You've broken down some of these barriers to communicating about money. It's all so beautiful. What a beautiful bill of the week. If you all listening have a bill about mimosas, meetings, Mondays, money, or your name is Bill, frugalfriendspodcast.com/bill. Leave us your bill.
When it comes to financial advice, you got to trust the source. It's why you listen to this podcast. If you're looking to upgrade your wallet, you need to turn to NerdWallet.
Their expert team of nerds dives into the details to help you find smarter financial products. If you're paying for vacations with whatever card is in your wallet, you could be missing out on miles you didn't even know you were leaving on the table.
You can get a new card with more miles and more upgrades. What could future you do with more travel rewards? A hotel upgrade, lounge access? Wherever you go next, make it happen with a smarter travel credit card. Don't wait to make smart financial decisions.
Compare and find smarter credit cards, savings accounts, and more today at nerdwallet.com. As with all cards, credit is subject to lender approval and terms apply. NerdWallet. Finance smarter.
You might remember from our budget apps episode, we mentioned Monarch Money as being one of the best apps for people switching from Mint.
Monarch is the top-rated all-in-one personal finance app. It gives you a comprehensive view of all your accounts, investments, transactions, cash flow, net worth, and more. Listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/frugal.
If you previously used Mint and are worried about transferring your data, Monarch has a tool that allows you to easily import your data from Mint, keeping all your tags and categories intact. It's also super customizable. After trying out Monarch for myself, I understand why it's the top-rated personal finance app.
And right now, listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/frugal. That's monarchmoney.com/frugal for your extended 30-day free trial.
Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale with Hot Buys, your choice of colors starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $250. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beauty Rest Black with special financing options for every budget. Only at Ashley in North Charleston and Mount Pleasant. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.
And now it's time for the lightning round.
Ooh, okay. So how much longer do you have until you hope to retire? And what do you need to shift in order to be prepared? Jill?
Okay, so I did the math. I know. I want to be retired today. Actually, I did try this. This is a side note for your vulnerability round, Jen. I went to this wedding in Mexico a few months ago where I didn't really know many people at the wedding, and I did not feel like talking about myself. I know that you don't like this very much because you're like, you need to tell them about our podcast. And it's just like not my MO. So I tried on for size just telling people I was retired.
Oh my God.
Like when they asked me, what do you do? And I literally said I was retired. There were 0 follow-up questions. Attention went off of me onto other things. We were able to talk about all the cool things they were doing. I loved it.
I do hate telling people I have a podcast. This is true though.
It just feels so complicated and I was tired and I didn't want to talk about it. So I said I was retired.
Nobody would believe me if I said I was retired. They would think, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom. Cool.
We were in a group of people who I think all of them were relatively independently wealthy. So no one really batted an eye. And that was the benefit of being around a ton of wealthy people is it doesn't really matter. You could kind of just be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Or be not yourself because you're not retired still. You could be somebody different.
Me, apart from my work though, just me showing up with nothing to prove. So I did write 22 years in all reality because I thought that like 56 might be a decent retirement age, but I don't think that's a classic retirement age.
It's not. No, so the statistics actually are most people plan to retire at 65 and the average retirement age is around 62. And that's not by choice, not because people get so wealthy they get surprised and retire early, but a lot of people are forced out of the workplace because of illness, physical disability, caretaking a relative, pushed out just because of, their industry is going toward AI. I don't know. But yeah, that's a lot of the reason.
Yeah. And I would want to plan more for that. I would hate to be surprised. Like, oh no, I really needed to hold out for another 4 years and I can't. I'd rather be prepared for sooner. Hopefully by choice, but if I am forced sooner, I want to prepare for that. So 56 is my goal. No. All right. So I got 28 years if it is 62.
Wow. Okay.
I don't want to work for that long. But what this is telling me is I'm with that 35-year-old woman who emailed us. Like, I gotta increase this thing.
Why do you hate your job so much?
I don't hate my job. That's not it. I'm just tired. And it's not this. This is actually what's very life-giving to me. It's my decade and a half working in social work that exhausted me. And I'm still recovering. I think this is helping me to recover because I do still have to work even though I'm burnt out. But
ooh, she's a woman of the people, y'all.
It will shift. I know that things will be restored to me and my inner being. But at this moment, working for another 28 years does sound exhausting. But I'm encouraged to know we can find life-giving work. We can do work that's entirely different, that exercises a different part of who we are, that can, we can work even when burnt out if it's in a different area than maybe the field that burnt us out. And we may return to that field in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
So as I look at my retirement planner on Empower, it's saying that I can comfortably retire at 60. And that is my goal. My actual true goal
Whoa.
is to retire when my first child has my first grandchild. That is when I want to retire.
Yeah, nice.
So I would like to be prepared for that by, so I had Kai at 30. So if he has a child at 30, then that would put me at 60.
Nice.
But he could have a child earlier.
You have always predicted that.
Yeah. So I will, though it may be Atlas at this point. He is a renegade. So it could be 55. I don't know. But I would like to prepare somewhere between 55 and 60. It really will be that grandbaby that determines it.
Okay. And is there anything you need to shift to be prepared?
No, Empower says I'm in good shape. They forecast I have a 94% chance that my portfolio will support my goals.
Dang.
Yeah.
So you just stay the course. The amount of money you're currently investing can stay the same. No changes.
And it has decreased over the years. The amount I have invested has decreased. We went really hard in our 20s. Like we went super hard before we had kids. There was one year we maxed out IRAs, 2 IRAs and 1 401k.
Dang.
Right? So we went super hard so that we could ease off when we had kids.
Well done.
So, I mean, it's great. It has really worked out for us. And we still we prioritize our IRAs over our kids' 529s.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, I mean, we still
invest. It's a better
invest.
gift to them that they won't have to care for you financially.
And we even have let off the gas a little bit more during this renovation and Travis's job shift. And, we're still on track. It does put that 55, it has moved that 55 to 60. But we can always catch up later because we have the foundation we built.
I love that. Well, Jen's crushing it. I've got work to do. Thanks for listening.
I put in the work when I had the capacity.
Yeah.
So that now when I do not have the capacity, I don't feel so bad about it.
Yep.
And so maybe you didn't and you feel bad, but know that in the future there will be additional hard times, right? So maybe right now is a hard time. So when you get out of it, you could go hard and prepare for the next time when your capacity
we can't
is dwindled.
Ever go back, but collecting information now and informing ourselves now is still better than later. I mean, imagine not getting this information until 10 years from now. So do what you can with what you got. We're all on different journeys.
Yep.
Thanks for listening. Many of you know that we do have a newsletter. It's called the Friendletter. We talk about it all the time. It goes out 3 times a week. We send out freebies, savings tips, life hacks to help you save money. And when you email us back, when we send you an email and then you email us back, we get it. This one comes from Alex, who just said, "Thank you for all the valuable materials. God bless the team richly." Oh, thank you, Alex.
Took you a second to process that one.
I was like, wait, what is this last sentence saying? That's amazing. What a lovely response. Thanks for getting the friend letter. If you're not getting the friend letter, you totally should.
frugalfriendspodcast.com.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for signing up for the friend letter. Thanks for being here. Go invest in your future.
Go. We love you. Bye. Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Siriani. Jill, tell everyone real quick about your white glove service. Apologies for that sound.
Eric and I, on a Friday night, went to this night market where this produce stand was set up. It wasn't a typical produce stand where you could just buy from them. They were advertising their service. So they are a company who buys fresh produce for local restaurants in St. Pete. and they end up with so much additional produce that they've started a side business where they deliver their leftovers to residences in St. Pete. So you could sign up for a weekly or bi-weekly produce box from them. So they go and they shop. There's apparently a farmer's market somewhere in Tampa that operates 7 days a week. So they send people to go shop for the restaurants every single day to this market. And then their leftovers, they send out to people who want to buy the subscription. So $45 for one stuffed box of an incredible variety of fresh produce. I was like, I'm signing up. I got a discount code to sign up for the subscription. I signed up. They ended up delivering me a box the day I signed up. I was expecting to get it 2 weeks later,
like
but
2
they
hours.
showed up 2 hours later with a box to my door delivered from an electric vehicle. This is their whole thing. They're like, the reason we can get it to you cheap is because we're already buying it for the restaurants. We're delivering it to local restaurants. We're already in the area. We drive a car that doesn't cost us gas. And sure, we'll get it to your door for $45. So I get this box and I'm like, well, we'll just see. We'll see if it's all it's cracked up to be. Holy smokes, Jen. It was so much stuff. It took up, when I took it out of the box, it took up my entire island, and I had to price compare. I just had to. I couldn't move on with my life. I couldn't do other work until I did this.
I love this.
So I went on to Walmart, which is typically where I get my produce now. It's where I shop, and price compared. Now, I don't know if all the things that I got in the box are organic, but they're at least very fresh and most of it locally grown by local farmers. But even compared to non-organic things. So if I had bought all those things from Walmart, it would have been $44.02 versus the box being $45, although I had a discount code, so it was actually $38. So I definitely made out on this one. But 4 of the things that I got in the box were not available at Walmart. So I was able to see what would Walmart charge for this, but they didn't have it. Rutabaga, pineapple, poblano peppers, grapefruit, I would not have even been able to get, but I got it in this box. And so it was a combination of citrus, berries, squash, kale, root vegetables, like so many different things that is now going to kind of fuel the flame a bit for me in what do I even make this week? Because I do get in a little bit of a rut, even though I'm learning to cook at home and repurpose ingredients. I've now got all these ingredients I wouldn't typically have purchased, and I'm finding new recipes to try with my fresh produce that was delivered to my door for $45. And I'm so sorry for all of you listeners that you all don't live in St. Pete.
No, but so many places have these secret like co-ops that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And it's just the co-op goes to like a church or a civic center, and usually you can like pick up a box every week or every other week. Yours was special in that it was delivered to you.
Delivered to me.
But
in an electric vehicle.
These are in a ton of cities.
Yeah.
And it does, even if it like gives you the same price, right? You're not saving. If you can freeze stuff, if you can, if meal planning is hard, it gives you a guide on like what to look for.
Yeah.
So it definitely is for, a season, no pun intended, trying one of these out.
I like the variety of it. It's not going to necessarily work for every person, but for me, it's exciting. And I was even reading the reviews on their website, and a couple of people said, like, me and my kids get excited to see what's in the box. And then she was describing how she found buy-in with her kids in trying new things and making new dishes because they were kind of along the journey, like, what did we get this week? So that's also kind of a side note, bonus point for getting your kids to eat vegetables and try new things. If it feels like this fun surprise.
Yes. Highly, highly recommend.
Cool. That's my white glove service.
Love it.
Ready to celebrate International Women's Day? M&M's and iHeart present Women Take the Mic, sharing empowering stories of women supporting and celebrating each other. And of course, there is a smooth and creamy companion for your listening pleasure, peanut butter M&M's, because they're just another way to help treat yourself in situations where you deserve a little added delight, like listening to your favorite podcast. So savor the deliciousness of peanut butter M&M's and spread some positivity. From breaking glass ceilings to dominating in sports and entertainment, women truly are unstoppable.
Allstate wants to remind fans that mayhem is everywhere, like when the tailgate party shows up at your house after the big win. Everything's great until the hot plate gets too hot for the tablecloth. Now your kitchen's up in smoke. And if you don't have the right home insurance coverage, the cost to fix this could sideline your savings. So switch to Allstate, save money, and get protected from mayhem like this. Not available in every state based on coverage selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Savings vary.
Celebrate and save at Ashley's Anniversary Sale with Hot Buys, your choice of color starting at just $3.99. Ashley Sleep mattresses starting at $250. Plus, receive a free adjustable base with select mattress purchases. And shop top mattress brands like Stearns & Foster, Tempur-Pedic, Purple, and Beauty Rest Black with special financing options for every budget. Only at Ashley in North Charleston and Mount Pleasant. Subject to credit approval. No minimum purchase required. Minimum monthly payment, down payment, tax, and delivery may be required. See store for details.